Well, hello, hello, hello. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. Thank you all so much for coming. We have a intricate and I think very exciting topic today, the feet and the lower legs. Absolutely essential for so much of your yoga practices and carrying that practice out on into the field of gravity wherever it takes you in your world. So I'm thinking of the feet and the lower legs in terms of our foundation, the architectural foundation of our tall building organized over our ankles here. And there is the energetic element of the feet, which are the rooting into the ground. And that rooting into the ground can be um, a very palpable feeling. The rooting has to do with our electromagnetic field, which is swirling around us in this fashion, down to the feet, back out around and up to the head, down to the feet, and so on. And that, when it is in that field, when we have that in alignment for ourselves, aligns with the vaster electromagnetic field of the planet. And when those two fields meet in alignment, that feeling of roots shooting solidly down into the ground and holding us firmly can be a very palpable thing. I learned this rooting principle or had a demonstration of this rooting principle to an astonishing degree by a friend of mine who is a longtime martial arts enthusiast. And he said, I'm just going to stand here and you try to push me over. And he just stood normally and I let me put my hand on his chest and tried to push him off balance. And I could not push that precarious balancing act of the standing building over. He was just, it was like trying to push a stem down on a firmly rooted plant. And that phenomenon and the feeling of the solidity of that energetic rooting was really quite remarkable. And of course, in those functions of foundation and energetic roots, our feet and lower legs are taking care of the great part of our of our stability in the gravitational field. They are the arbitrators of our negotiation with gravity and of our inner negotiation with balance within that gravitational field. So they are the bottom of the building here that keeps this biped trucking and moving on down the road, standing, locomoting in our tight wire act. And that is what we're going to unpack today. Now, this is a schematic of a very complex balancing posture here with our ballerina and energetic lines of the musculature that is working through the ankle and through the hinge of the ankle, the pivot point of the ankle here, to arrange all this upper body weight over the foot. And as you can see, in terms of just the physics of leverage, we've got a very short lever in the extensiveness of our feet, heel to toe. And on top of that lever over the fulcrum of the ankles, and a very long lever. So if you can go back into your sense of the physics of a lever system, what we have with a short lever with its fulcrum very close to us, attached to a very long lever, as this body weight sways back and forth in space, a tremendous amount of muscular coiling around the legs, coiling around the upper legs, coiling around the lower legs, all the way down into the foot system. A tremendous responsibility of solidity in this kind of posture, or indeed anytime we simply raise a leg to take our next step. And in particular, in our yoga practice, when we are learning the physical feeling and the energetic feeling of those inward and outward spirals that we establish through the solid foundation of our legs, our tree trunks, it becomes a support system for whatever else a posture, whatever else an activity might be doing with the weight of my upper body. I want to think about, as we get started, what is implied when we refer to balance. It's a multifaceted thing, this sense of balance, both physical and psychological. And what are the layers of those interplays between the physical adjustments for balance and the psychological sense of balance that we carry in our minds? Those are intertwining all the time, and they can be mutually supportive, or the mind can be something that in its various attitudes we'll be discussing shortly, a great impediment to the physicality of that balance through our skeletal system, our connective tissue system, and our muscular system. Now, the development of that balance, and if we think of all the stages that infants go through, from belly crawling with no feet or leg supports, to coming up on those all fours, and to coordinating those all fours in initial homolateral movements, leg and arm forward on the same side, leg and arm and forward on the opposite side, through the more complex contralateral crawling mechanisms of hand going forward on one side, leg going forward on the other, knee going forward on the other, and switching that. A much more refined coordination system is developing through that process until we learn to begin the tenuous stages of letting go of those arm and hand supports and coming back on knees, eventually squatting back on feet, and starting to organize that body weight over feet without the frontal supports until the toddler finally winds and finds its way up into, at first, pulling up with objects around them, to settle in on the feet with the body approximating upright until that approximation becomes more and more refined, and we started to take our first steps. I have a little anecdote about my son that gave me an astonishing window into how natural this development should be. He was given a lot of free play, sorting that long trajectory from belly to all fours to feet, and a lot of mimicking and practice with his parents, other adults that surrounded him. I walked into his room one morning as we were getting ready to get our kit bags together and take him to school, and he was 6 or 7 years old, motivating quite nicely locomotorily. But as I walked into his room, he was standing on a basketball. And as he was standing on the basketball, he was putting on his shirt. And all those upper body manipulations involved in putting on that shirt, going down into his highly unstable basketball that could roll in any way. And there he was, perched on that basketball, putting on his shirt. Nobody taught him how to do that. He just did it on a lark. Oh, let's stand on the basketball and get dressed. That should be fun. So This sense of balance has the capacity, has the rootedness in a naturalness that all of our bodies, our minds, our nervous systems, and our muscular systems are developing as we learn to stand on our 2 feet. And with that should come not a sense of struggle and precariousness, but a sense of ever more refined ease coming up into that upright posture and all of the balancing that we have to do over those 2 feet down on the ground. So many aspects to balance. I want to pause before we get to our anatomy slides to consider. On the physical plane, humans, that is